Zombie World was the second deck profile that I provided to you guys on this channel, and it is currently the best performing video that I've had on this channel with over 7,500 views currently as I sit recording on January 1st. And I really wanted to look back into Zombie World. There's not been enough support for me to release another Zombie World deck that I don't think. There's been Flying Mary, and that's around about it. But I wanted to look back on Zombie World, so I was trying to think, how can we change this deck to make it, you know, a new deck profile for you guys? And well, Zombie World likes to go first. The entire idea is to set up a kind of floodgate style board with Zombie World turning everything into zombies. You've got Rivalry of Warlords in there, and just be able to stop your opponent from being able to play their game plan. So what happens if we have to go second? It's best 2 out of 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Occasionally you might have to go second with Zombie World. So yeah, I put together a deck profile for going second with Zombie World, and I hope that you enjoy it. If you do enjoy my Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, then please do subscribe down below. It'd be very much appreciated if you did. I set the goal of getting to 250 subscribers by the end of the year. We got to 299 and then got another one at 2 a.m. I'm counting it, we got to 300. So it's incredible. Thank you so much for everybody who has subscribed to the channel. Our anniversary for the channel is roughly May time. That's when I count this channel starting. It's when I changed over from being Buxton Gaming to Buxton TCG. And I changed the sort of assets and the style of what I was doing and everything like that in the middle of May, and the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile came out on May 24th, and that's when I kind of count, this is when the channel properly started. So by May 24th, I'd like to get to 500 subscribers. I think that would be incredible if we could do that within a year. So yeah, let's try and get down to 500 subscribers. Let's take a look at this Zombie World deck profile going second and see what we've come up with. So let's see what going second zombies looks like then, shall we? So let's move the extra deck over here, and we are starting our zombie deck profile with 2 copies of Doom King Belladrock. So Doom King Belladrock is the boss monster of the deck. It has the effect of, during the standby phase, if a face-up card in a field zone and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position. You can only use this effect of Doom King Belladrock once per turn. And then once per chain, when a zombie monster except for Belladrock activates its effect, except during the damage step, quick effect, you can apply one of these effects, but you cannot apply the same effect of Doom King Belladrock again this turn. You can either negate that effect or banish one monster from the field or graveyard. So really useful to being able to get a double effect off that. And because the opponent's monsters all become zombies, Doom King Belladrock's going to get to proc during the opponent's turn as well. Next up, we have got 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie here, you can target one face-up monster on the field, discard 1 card, and if you do, increase that target's level by 1. You could target one face-up monster on the field. Monsters that you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn except for zombie-type monsters. Also send 1 zombie-type monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase that target's level by 1. So level modulation is really useful with Unizombie, but just being able to send stuff from your hand to the graveyard and being able to send things from your deck to the graveyard is really important, including, but not limited to, this card here, Glow Up Bloom. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand, or if Zombie World is in a field zone, you can special summon it from your deck instead. Also, in either case, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except for zombie monsters. You can only use this effect of Glow Up Bloom once per turn. Really, really useful card to being able to get into your Doom King Belladrock, being able to get into your Chang-Chi, which we'll see later. So it's a really useful card to have in the deck. Next up, we are playing 2 copies of Gozuki. During your main phase, you can send 1 zombie monster from your deck to your graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish 1 zombie monster from your graveyard except for Gozuki to special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand. You can only use each effect of Gozuki once per turn. Fantastic extender for the deck, really powerful, being able to get Gozuki in your hand and get it on the field nice and early. Next up, we have got a single copy of Mizuki. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 zombie monster in your graveyard, and special summon that target. Very simple, very easy, something that you can send with like a Foolish Burial or something like that to be able to summon something from the graveyard. So yeah, really, really useful card. All right, next up, we have got 3 copies of Necroworld Banshee. Zombie World in the field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target it with card effects whilst this card is on the field. Quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard to activate 1 Zombie World directly from your hand or deck. You can only use this effect of Necroworld Banshee once per turn. So really useful to being able to bring out Zombie World without adding it to your hand or without it being considered something that can be Ash Blossomed. So Necroworld Banshee is a powerful card for getting access to your Zombie World. Next up, 2 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. You can tribute 1 zombie monster to special summon 1 zombie tuner with 0 defense from your deck. If this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Shiranui monsters, except for Shiranui Solitaire, or up to 2 instead if Shiranui style synthesis is on the field. To special summon them, you can only use each effect of Shiranui Solitaire once per turn. So the second effect of this doesn't apply to this deck. I don't run any other Shiranui cards, but being able to summon a Unizombie directly from the deck just by tributing this guy just makes it so you've got extra copies of Unizombie in the deck, essentially. Next up, we have got 2 copies of Jack O'Bolan. You can discard 1 zombie monster to special summon this card from your hand. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 zombie monster in either graveyard, special summon that monster, but banish it when it leaves the field, then banish this face-up card until the end phase. You can only use each effect of Jack O'Bolan once per turn. So you're really useful for being able to grab like your Mizuki or Gozuki or something like that in order to use their effects. Or Gozuki more than anything, being able to use their effects, get it onto the field, and then you can use those for like link plays or anything, and Jack O'Bolan still comes back at the end of the turn. Next up, we've got a single copy of Changshi the Spiridow. During your main phase, you can send 1 zombie monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. If this card is banished, you can banish 1 zombie monster in your graveyard, special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Changshi the Spiridow once per turn. So again, another fantastic extender that you can use. You can summon that off of Glow Up Bloom in order to then be able to send your Doom King to the graveyard for it to come back next turn if you've got a field spell on the field. Okay, next up, we've got a single copy of Mad Mauler. This card's name becomes Plague Spreader Zombie whilst on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 level 6 or higher monster that you control, reduce its level by 2, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, the player who summoned it cannot special summon monsters except for zombie monsters whilst this card is face up in a monster zone. You can only use this effect of Mad Mauler once per turn. Mad Mauler, really good extender, just being able to get those synchro plays by modulating levels and using it as a tuner. Fantastic card. Next up, we've got a single copy of Vampire Fraulein. When a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. You can only use this effect of Vampire Fraulein once per turn. Once per battle, if your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during that damage calculation, quick effect, you can pay life points in multiple of 100 with maximum of 3,000. Your battling monster gains that much attack and defense during damage calculation only. At the end of the battle phase, if this card is destroyed any monsters by a battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field. So yeah, really useful card. Just that special summon in the battle phase can be really useful. And being able to pay the life points just to keep your zombies around is a strong effect. Next up, we have got a single copy of Al Ghul Mazira. If a zombie monster that you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard instead. Then if this card is banished from the hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position. Then you can reduce its level by 1. You can only use each effect of Al Ghul Mazira once per turn. And then lastly, finishing off the monsters, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom. So Ash Blossom is really useful as well because Ash Blossom is a zombie. So I had duels recently where I just used Ash Blossom as a tuner and just normal summoned it in order to be able to go in for synchro plays. So yeah, really good card to feature in this deck. It's almost tempting as well to put that Ghost Spell in here as well for that reason. Okay, let's move on to the spells now. We are running no traps in this deck. And we are going to be starting with 3 copies of Zombie World, of course. So all monsters on the field and in any graveyard become zombie-type monsters. Neither player can tribute summon monsters except for zombie-type monsters. So having that little bit of a floodgate, tribute summoning is not a big thing in Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, but having that floodgate of everything becoming zombies just makes everything that little bit more difficult for the opponent, particularly when things need to be like a specific type in the graveyard. Next up, we are playing a single copy of Terraforming to be able to get to our zombie world. And we're playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. We want to see Foolish Burial in order to be able to potentially send a Doom King Belladrach or be able to send a Necroworld Banshee to the graveyard to use those effects. Next up, we are playing a single copy of 1-for-1. Send one monster from your hand or to the graveyard to special summon one level 1 monster from your hand or deck. This gives us access to our Glow Up Bloom, which is one of the most powerful cards that we can have in the deck. All right, next up, we're going to be looking at the board breakers that we're running here. So first of all, we have got 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. So I like Dark Ruler No More in this because you're not necessarily too bothered about the opponent taking damage because you're wanting to set up your floodgate field. Zombies are not trying to OTK your opponent, so having one turn where they don't take damage in order to negate the effects of all face-up monsters the opponent currently controls, that's really strong. And the fact that neither player can activate monster effects to respond to it is a really powerful effect as well. Next up, we are playing a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. We're playing a single copy of Raigeki. 2 copies of Lightning Storm, in case those weren't quite enough. And then 3 copies of Super Poly. So we've got some Super Poly targets in the extra deck for this to be useful. So the idea is we try and break down the board as best we can, and then we set up our own field in order to just floodgate the opponent out of the game. That's the plan with this particular deck. So that is it for the main deck. Let's move on to our extra deck. Starting with our only Xyz in the deck, we have a single copy of the Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire is still really strong. It's a little bit more difficult to summon in this build because you don't have access to like Danger Bigfoot as well. But you require 2 level 8 monsters to summon this. And then if you use a monster with a level that is owned by your opponent for the Xyz summon of this card, treat it as a level 8. Neither player can target this card with the effects of special summon monsters, except for those special summoned from the graveyard. You can attach 1 material from this card. Each player sends the top 4 cards from your deck to the graveyard, and then if any monsters were sent to either graveyard by this effect, you can special summon one of those monsters to your field. You can only use this effect of Zombie Vampire once per turn. That milling effect is incredibly powerful in zombies. Just being able to get your zombies into the graveyard, but also summon something of the opponent's is really powerful. Next up, onto the synchros now. We've got a single copy of Immortal Dragon. During your main phase, you can send 1 zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do this, the card's level becomes the difference in original levels of that monster and this card. When your zombie monster is destroyed by battle, whilst this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Immortal Dragon once per turn. So having a level 6 tuner is really nice. And being able to have a tuner that can just perfectly modulate its level wherever you want it to go is really, really nice. Next up, we've got a single copy of Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon. So, Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon gains 100 attack and defense for each zombie monster on the field and in the graveyards. And if you've got Zombie World up, that's going to be quite a lot. This guy can get very big. When another zombie monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon 1 zombie monster from either graveyard to your field. You can only use this effect of Red Eye Zombie Necro Dragon once per turn. Next up, we've got Skeletal Dragon Falgrand. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 monster that your opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish it. If a monster is special summoned from either graveyard whilst this monster is on the field, except for in the damage step, you can target 1 other face-up monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect of Skeletal Dragon Falgrand once per turn. Finally, rounding out the synchros, we have a single copy of Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target 1 zombie monster in your graveyard, except for Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord, special summon it. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one zombie monster you control, special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord once per turn. Really useful during your opponent's turn to just be able to bring back something like a Doom King Balladrock or something like that. Just get it on the field during the opponent's turn, and then be able to play from there. Or you could always kind of bring back a Necro World Banshee or something like that. You can bring back anything that you like, just for a bit of defense. All right, moving on to the links now. We've got a single copy of Vampire Sucker. So it requires 2 zombie monsters. If you would tribute a monster for the tribute summon, you can tribute a zombie monster that your opponent controls, even though you do not control them. You can only use each of the following effects of Vampire Sucker once per turn. You target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your opponent's field in defense position, but it becomes a zombie monster. And then if a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, you can draw a card. Really good to pair with your Doom King Balladrock, which is going to special summon itself from the graveyard at the start of every turn if it is in there and there's a field card available. Next up, we've got a single copy of Avendread Savior. This requires 2 zombie monsters, and this card's name becomes Revendread Slayer whilst on the field. You can only use each of the following effects of Avendread Savior once per turn. You target one Vendread card in your graveyard to add it to your hand. During damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can send one zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. That opponent's monster loses attack equal to the level of the monster sent to the graveyard times 200 until the end of this turn. So really good card. Again, sending a card from deck to graveyard is very powerful in zombies, but also like just being able to send whatever you want and potentially get a bit of protection and stuff like that is really handy. Next up, we've got the newest support that we had in zombies, Flying Mary, the Wandering Ghost Ship. You can target one of your level 5 or higher zombie monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Place this card in your spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous spell, and if you do, special summon that monster. Whilst this card is a continuous spell, you can target one level 5 or higher zombie monster that you control. Destroy one monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. You can only use each effect of Flying Mary, the Wandering Ghost Ship, once per turn. Again, another very, very strong effect that they brought out recently. Next up, we've got a single copy of Vampire Fascinator. If this card is link summoned, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except for zombie monsters. You can tribute one vampire monster, then target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase. You can only use each effect of Vampire Fascinator once per turn. Really useful. Again, you can potentially go into your zombie vampire with those effects. So it's a really powerful card. All right, that rounds out the zombie links. So let's just go into the generic links now. We've got a single copy of Relinquished Anima. We only get locked out of zombies into zombies by the effect of Glow Up Bloom. So as long as we do these things before Glow Up Bloom's effect goes off, then we're golden. It's not a problem at all. So one copy of Relinquished Anima. We have one copy of SP Little Knight and one copy of Nightmare Unicorn. And then finally, we have our 3 Super Poly targets. So we have got a single copy of Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon. So this is something that is kind of exclusively a Super Poly target in zombies, or if you're against zombies. So it requires 2 zombie monsters to summon. So if you've got Zombie World on the field, you can just use 2 of your opponent's monsters using Super Poly. Must first be fusion summoned. Monsters cannot be destroyed by battle with this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled a monster, change that monster's attack to 0. Also, if that monster is still face up on the field, special summon 1 Dark Soul token, which is a zombie dark with attack and level the same as the original level and attack of that monster. So yeah, really, really strong. And then we're also playing a single copy of Mud Dragon and a single copy of Garura for those additional Super Polys just to wipe the board. So that is my going second deck profile for Zombie World. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have enjoyed it. Let's get us to those 500 subscribers as quickly as we can. And I will see you next time.